I'm your huckleberry.
This is the Smoking Guns Podcast.
No G with a Z, POD, Smoking Guns Podcast, with you on another Victory Monday. Hey, we got 2 victories. We got the victory with the Brahmas. We got the victory with the Gunslingers. Can't ask for more than that. Like 2-0 for the weekend is what we're going for each and every week, right?
Absolutely.
This is the Smoking Guns Podcast. My name is Phillip and RC. I'm joined as always by my good friends Leo Yamas.
What's up, Smoking Guns Posse?
And RC Woods down here.
Hello, beautiful people. Mwah.
We are a podcast that deals with professional football in San Antonio. That includes the San Antonio Brahmas of the United Football League and the San Antonio Gunslingers of the Indoor Football League, both winning their games this week. And we're going to start in a weird place for us. It seems like all season long we've been starting with the Gunslingers. That's not where we're starting today. We have a rule for this season that we were going to cover the one that we're going to see next first on the show. So this week, because of the way the schedules fall, we're going to deal with the Brahmas first this week, and we're going to move to the Gunslingers in the back half of the show. And as we talk about the Brahmas, we have a special guest. We're going to bring her on now. Her name is D. Jean Herta. She is the sister of Wade Phillips, head coach Wade Phillips. And she is the daughter of Bum Phillips, because that's really cool. And I have to mention that too. D. Jean, thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with us and talk about Brahmas football. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Thank you for having me. And I do want to say I have 4 sisters. So Wade has 5 sisters. I'm just one of them.
Nice.
Wow.
He and your dad grew up in that household that I kind of am the father of right now. I have my wife, 3 daughters, and then we just welcomed a grandson into the house. And I look at my grandson all the time, and I just kind of shake he's 7 weeks old, so he's not, but I shake my head and I go, man, we're surrounded by ladies, and your brother and your dad were kind of in that same household, huh?
Yes. And Wade's the oldest. So notice I said oldest, but anyway.
Well, D. Jean, you've gotten an opportunity to come out. We were talking a little bit beforehand before we came on the air. You've gotten a chance to come out to all the Brahmas games. RC extended an invitation to you to come on the show, and at first you were like, that's not really my gig. But then we talked about how we wanted to get your opinion on just the fans, the atmosphere around the game, tailgating, and some of that stuff. And you were like, oh, well, if that's what you're going to let me talk about, that's awesome. You've been having a good time out at these games beforehand and in the crowd there?
Yes. I was going to say, I ran into 2 women at the Brahmas game. It might have been the first game or second game. And they had on Wade's World shirts.
Yes.
And because it was bright yellow with the black letters. In fact, I ended up buying a bunch of them. So anyway, can't miss this in the stadium. So met them, Heidi and Diana, and they introduced me to Desiree through Facebook. Got in touch with her, and once I got in touch with Desiree, then it was like, hey, I want some of those shirts. And she said, oh, I can make those shirts. And I'll make them happen. So she did, met up with her. And then the next week she said, hey, if you want to come to the tailgate, told us where it was. And we were like, sure, we're going to check it out this past, weekend. And we did. And it was awesome.
So you're no stranger to the world of football and football fans. You've been around that basically all of your life. What is it about San Antonio that makes you go, well, jumping on a video cast is not a podcast is not my thing, but you guys do such an amazing job that I would love to talk about that. What is it about Brahmas fans in San Antonio?
The hospitality was off the charts. hospitality. Just they were so friendly and willing to give, have a place for us to sit. It was so hot that weekend, and they had their little, and they were like, "You can come sit here. You can get under their tent. Hey, are you hungry? You want some food? You want a cupcake?" I mean, just hospitality. And then their loyalty to the team, the Brahmas, and their loyalty to the Gunslingers, I thought was incredible. Their energy, everything's going to end in a Y here. Hospitality, loyalty. They're they're fun to be around. They're so excited to have a football team. They have two football teams. They support both. Family. They just seem like they're family, and they take care of each other and they check on each other. And we were just, my husband and I were blown away by all those things. And we just had so much fun. And we want to go back next week. They said, "Hey, you're welcome to come back." And we're like, "Yeah, we want to come back."
That's great.
And you're missing out, I just think if you don't go check out a Brahma game, you're missing out. You're missing out on all those things and all the fun you can have and all the loyalty and the family and just all of it.
You bet.
Yeah, for sure. D Gene, there's a culture that's around the San Antonio football fan base that's really been kind of building up and staying strong through a lot of adversity. It started with the San Antonio Commanders several years back, and then that was taken away from us very abruptly. And I don't know if you've heard the story, but the week that the AAF folded and everything was shut down, we were supposed to have a very significant and big home game that weekend.
Yeah.
And our hearts were just ripped out of us, collectively. And it was a very sad moment. And we were actually doing our show back then. We were under a different title because it was the Commanders. We were called the Command Post Podcast. And we did a very emotional show. Yeah. When that ended. And the fans had such a passion in this community that you're talking about that we ended up tailgating anyways, even without a game. We had the tailgate without a game, we called it. It's known as famously. And Commanders, a couple of players, I know at least one I can remember, but I think there was more than one, actually came out and joined us. And we just had a good old time, like we normally do for these football games. And that's just how deep that passion for football goes. And we as a podcast, we kind of knew and had a sense that this can't be it and there's something going on. So we kept kind of doing our thing even when there was no team to cover. And then we heard about the possible coming of the XFL. And the Brahmas came and we just kind of continued that. And then the Gunslingers, and we see the same faces from the very beginning. There's kind of that culture, and then bring in new faces and new members of RC coined a term a while back. RC, it was family.
Yeah.
Because there's fans, but they're also family. And I don't think people outside of San Antonio understand just how much of how strong of a fan base we have here in San Antonio and how connected we can be over the support of a football team. It's just something that's always been there, even when we didn't have one. And so it's really special to a lot of us, and most people that come in and experience it, they start to get it. So it's awesome that you got to experience that.
Yeah, you use the word passion, and that's a great word because that's what I saw is the passion they have for football. And some of them traveling, they don't all live in San Antonio. They were, coming in from all different towns and cities to cheer, the Brahmas on and the Gunslingers on. So you're like, wow. So passion's a good word.
I know that we talked earlier and I mentioned, like, even behind me, I have the Brahma Mamas. And I think, I'm really trying to encourage females in football. And I know for years ago, a lot of the merchandise was all based on men's sizes. And that's the great thing with Desiree. She caters to women's sizes. She caters to our style. And I don't think men realize how important that is. We want to feel like a female, but we also want to support our team. And so what we do as a community and as females, we try to bridge that connection. So when you come to our tailgate, it's like you're coming to our home. We welcome you. Whatever we have on our table is yours. We share. You really do become family. And I'm very grateful that you were able to experience that. And I'm glad that you feel welcome, because really that's our goal. We just want everyone to come out, not only enjoy the game, enjoy tailgating, enjoy the passion.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know if you noticed, but I have these earrings that have a little longhorn here, and you'll be getting a pair on Saturday when we see you.
Awesome. Now I do have two. We have 3 children. 2 were Aggies, so I don't know. It's a Longhorn.
Well, it's a Brahma. Let's say it's a Brahma.
It's a
Brahma.
Brahma bull. My husband says
It's a
Bramer,
Brahma.
but it's Brahma.
Right.
Yeah.
Brahman. Yeah, Brahman is that's an old rancher kind of thing. The Brahman bull, as opposed to the Brahma bull.
Yes.
That's actually I learned 2 years ago when they announced the Brahma name that is a big controversy of just the word Brahma to the wrong people is like, you don't know what you're talking about. If you're calling it a Brahma, you have no idea what you're even talking about. And I see by your laugh that's you resonate with that a little bit. You know where that's coming from.
It's hilarious.
This rancher thing. So
every day, it's he cannot say. I mean, really, it's hard for him to say Brahma, but I'm working. But it's just that's him. That's how they were raised, like you said, and that's how they say it. Bramer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited that you've been having a good time. You've been joining for the games. It's not something that it's not something you have to get involved in. Like you can sit at home in the comfort of your house and watch your brother's team on TV. You've had to do that before in your life. I'm sure you weren't necessarily flying up to Denver every week for games when he was coaching up there or those kind of things. Supporting him, but from afar. What makes this something at this point that your family, not just your brother, but your family is willing to attach to? It's the UFL. We're not in the NFL. We're not in the big leagues, and you guys have been a part of that all of your lives. What is it about the UFL that makes you willing to spend your time, your effort, your gas, your weekends coming to San Antonio and enjoying a game? Is it just that family connection, or do you see something in the UFL that you think is more?
Of course, number one, it is family,
Right.
And followed Wade, his whole career, followed my dad. We love football. We're football nuts. My nephew's football coach as well, and our son coached football, and we just love football. But I would, and our loyalty has changed over the years because there's always a new team get fired or whatever. And so you've got a new team you follow, and we're going to follow whatever team they're with. But San Antonio, this UFL, this Brahma team, this Brahma Mamas, this whole thing is on fire, and it's fun to be around it. And like I said, we hadn't been to a tailgate. Maybe I had been to one many, many years ago, and this league is just fun. It's just exciting. I'm not bashing it. I love the NFL, but number one, you can afford to go to the games.
That's huge. Wow. No, that's huge. Don't get me wrong.
Take your kids to the games and you can have fun, and just the atmosphere. It's just fun. So I would go to a game, even if it wasn't family,
Do you
Mm.
do you guys feel like, because you've been around, you were around the AFL before it was part of the NFL, and then the NFL, and you've seen that grow into kind of the behemoth that it was. Does it feel like the UFL almost harkens back a little bit to another time in professional football when things were a little smaller, a little more close knit, and not as, I hate to
Less-
say corporate, but I can't
less
think of
corporate.
I can't give a better word for it. It just, the NFL is great, and we all love football, and I'm not bagging on the NFL at all, but it's a huge, giant thing, and this is at least smaller, and it feels like you can navigate it a little better, like the NFL used to be back before Jerry Jones and his influence kind of turned it into this gigantic thing that it became.
Yeah, I think this kind of has the college atmosphere too.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it's just I don't know, just all the things they do in the stadium that are fun, and the fans interact, when they do all the, Simba Cam and the
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah.
Those are
they do
great.
things, flex cam, whatever, but they get everybody involved, and
Mhm.
I think college teams do that. They get the fans involved, and pros is a little more, they get involved. I'm not saying they don't, but I don't know, maybe it's just a little crazier in the UFL and the college atmosphere.
Sure.
Uh,
Your football royalty. I mean, to be fair, you're in a family that is a name in football, not just
Mhm.
your brother, but your father. What would you say to somebody? Because we hear this all the time, actually, on in UFL kind of, if that's just not real football. It's not really football. These aren't the best players. They're all up in the NFL, and this is just kind of the cast off of that. And this isn't real football. You've been around this game all of your life. Would you agree with that? Is this a lower level of football? Is this not worth it?
They sure hit like real football, and they play like real football, and they work just as hard. So no, I don't. This is real football,
right.
and they're more hungry for it.
That's true.
Sure.
Have you been able to meet any of the super fans that we have here with the Brahmas?
I've not. I don't know. I might have met a few super fans. I'm not
Okay.
sure which
I know
ones
we
are.
have like Brahma Babe. We have Captain Brahma. We have two beautiful bulls. Things like that. I think that just in the short amount of time, which
The
has been our
mariachi.
Jorge, yeah, the mariachi.
Jorge the
the
mariachi.
mariachi, Jorge.
Yeah.
They've just really been very creative on how they can represent San Antonio and also the Brahmas.
Yes. I think I met
Yeah.
Captain Brahma or Captain.
You have. Desiree is saying she's met Captain Me and Terry, and then Captain Brahma is actually in here on our comments and says the best part is we don't see any fights in the stands between opposing teams. It's a family thing. We're all brothers and sisters in the league. I think that's true in San Antonio.
Yes.
But I'm not sure that's true in St. Louis. We've heard stories about folks up in St. Louis getting a hard time when they are other teams' fans. That's a bummer. I get being passionate for your team, but that doesn't mean you have to start something up in the stands. That's just ridiculous.
Very un-Texan.
There you go.
Very un-Texan.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a team, I believe it's DC, where they promote this drinking snake of all of these cups, which I get it. But what does that have to do with family fun and football? You know what I mean? Are we just here to drink? So I like that we don't promote that.
Look, RC, it's not my jam, and it's not your jam, and it's not Leo's jam. Like, we're there for football, but let's be honest, the game of football is built on some foundation, on some sort of pie chart of people that are looking for a way to have a really good time and enjoy some beer and imbibe and have a great time. And that's fair. Like, those people are doing what they're doing. That's not our thing, but I don't want to give them a hard time. And I think the beer snake is kind of a cool thing. It bugs me that the league keeps trying to get its hands involved in it, and sometimes it's allowed and sometimes it's not, and it's kind of been a mess
Right.
there in DC. I'm glad it's not here in SA and
Right.
we don't have to deal with it, but I think it's a cool thing. And sports as a whole, and football especially, is built on a certain percentage of folks that's their thing, and that's okay. As long as they're safe and responsible about it, I'm all for it. That's
the
what
key
you do.
thing.
And so, Dean Jean, when you come to tailgate this weekend, the Brahma Mamas also, we ask our fans to bring a can because we collect food for the food bank. And so every tailgate, we do ask if you could just bring a can or non-perishable item. We've collected at sometimes up to like 40 to 50 cans. And then I go the next day and I donate it to the food bank. So if you could do that, that would be great. And just spread the word.
I will. That's awesome.
Thank you.
D-Jean, we really appreciate you coming on. We love your family and y'all's involvement in the game. It's really cool. It is one of the things that I will talk about for the rest of my life, of like, I never got to talk to Bum Phillips, but I absolutely got to talk to Bum Phillips' daughter and tell her that I appreciate everything that her family has done for the game of football, from your dad to your brother. And all the way down, because I know that that's not where football stops in your family. It continues to move down through. I love the game. I know that you guys, all of your lives, have loved the game, and I love meeting people who enjoy this game that I love so much. So thank you so much for spending some time with us. We look forward to seeing you on Saturday out at the Brahmas game as we take on the Stallions and attempt to give them a loss here and keep moving through the season and try to lock in a playoff game here in San Antonio, because that would be a blast.
Yep. Oh,
there you go.
There you go.
There you go. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you. I can't wait to hang out with you on Saturday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, D-Jean. D-Jean Herda, she is Wade Phillips' sister. She is Bum Phillips' daughter, and she has been to every one of these Brahmas games, not because it's just her brother, but because she has connected with fans. She's connected with some of you in the chat and some of you that are listening. And she is excited about Brahmas, not just because it's a family thing, but because she has enjoyed the passion around this team. And that's kind of exciting. Hey,
and shares our passion of football.
There's a lot to be passionate about, Leo and RC. The game on Sunday was pretty good. Let's talk a little bit about that here in just a second. Let's take a real quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about San Antonio kind of dominating those Renegades from Arlington. Felt good. Felt like a really good game. We'll talk more about it. Give us just a minute. Smoking Guns Podcast. We'll be right back. Smoking Guns Podcast. Phillip and Leo Yamas, RC Woods. Don't forget to get us your bull spit and bullseye. That's your top thing in football this weekend in San Antonio professional football, and your least favorite thing in San Antonio professional football this week. We cover all those at the end of the show, that last segment of the show, but you can turn them in anytime, and we'll mark them and make sure that we go back and share those and see what everybody loved about the weekend and what everybody hated about the weekend. So the San Antonio Brahmas beat the Arlington Renegades 20-15, and Leo, it wasn't even that close. Like, the score is not indicative of what happened.
No. The Brahmas played a much better game than the score indicated. They were much more dominant. They did let things get a little bit interesting in the second half. I felt like it was a replay of Saturday at some times. I was like, oh no, here we go again.
A theme going through the week here in football.
Yes,
really dominant first half, a little bit of a clincher in the second half. James Palmer asked the question that I knew we were going to cover. I knew we were going to talk about. He says, so I have to ask, how did y'all feel about the starting quarterback choice and how it worked out? I'm going to be real honest with you, Leo. We talked at length last week about how Kevin Hogan should have been the starting quarterback going through the rest of the season, or at least this week going into Arlington, because we had seen everything we were going to see from Quentin Dormady, and he wasn't going to give us what we needed, and we need to move on to something else. And Leo, I was 100% incorrect, it appears. Quentin Dormady.
We were both wrong.
Me too. All three of us.
I think all of us. I might have been more wrong than either of you, because I went even further out on a limb and was very critical of Quentin Dormady last week on the show. And even Loli's kept looking over at me during the game, and she's like, "He's shutting you up. He's shutting you up. He's proving you wrong." And she would laugh at me, and I was like, "You know what? I'm okay with that. I love it. If that's what's happening here, please prove me wrong. I'm happy that he was doing that." And you're right. He did have a really, really exceptional game. He wasn't the only one.
No, but
we'll get to that in a bit. Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a bit.
Washington.
He must have listened to the show and said, "I'm going to prove them all three wrong." And I'm okay with that.
They don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to show them. Good. It shouldn't take me to motivate you, Quentin, but if that's what it takes, we're here.
We'll take it. We did our job.
Leo, 17 of 25, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a 68% completion rating and a 201, almost a 202 quarterback rating. That is not just a good game. That's a great game.
That's a great game.
320 yards, 202 quarterback rating. He looked great. He looked in command. He was making good decisions, pulling down the ball and running. He added 13 yards rushing, which I think is great. I don't need my quarterback to have 50, 55 yards rushing. I don't want that. But 13 yards, pulling it down, making it happen when he needed to. Quentin Dormady looked really, really good in a way that I don't think I've seen him look in 2 years. Both the XFL year last year in Orlando and the UFL year here in San Antonio. This is the best I've seen him look.
Yes. And honestly, I mean, we're self-glorifying ourselves a little bit if we think we had anything to do with that, and he actually heard what Leo Yamas and Phillip and RC Woods had to say about him. Right. I don't think that happened at all. The benching, in reality, probably had made him reflect a little bit, concentrate. That this was a different Quentin Dormady than we have seen. Like you said, Phillip, and the decision making was so much better. The biggest stat that you said to me off of his stat line was the 0 interceptions, no turnovers. He was confident throwing the ball out there. The offense was moving. I mean, the defense was great. The defense has always been great. Things got a little bit interesting in the second half. Arlington came out in the second half and really gave us a good fight. But Quentin Dormady played a near perfect game. I got to give him props. And as much as last week I said I had seen enough and I was ready to move on, I was wrong. Wade Phillips, when he said earlier in the week that Quentin Dormady was going to continue, it was going to be the starter again this week, I was, perplexed. And the reason he said was familiarity with the offense, it's just continuity, and that just he felt more comfortable with him running the offense. And Quentin Dormady showed why. He went out there and he showed everybody. So props to Quentin Dormady. Earlier, Jamar said Leo was eating crow. I was, and I've never been happier to eat crow.
Oh my. Well, I know I was all for Hogan. And I even bought 50 fake mustaches, and I was going to pass them out because there was power in the mustache. But it didn't happen. And so when I heard that Dormady was going to be the starting quarterback, I was a little disappointed, maybe a lot disappointed, but he proved me wrong. So I'm happy. And I agree with Leo. I think it was the benching that really affected him the most, that gave him that motivation. because even his accuracy on point, which I hadn't seen in all the games before.
I mean, let's look. He had a great game. He had a wonderful game. I'm not taking anything away from him. Let's not go nuts. Like, he was still missing occasional throws.
A little bit.
There were times that he was off. Like, it wasn't a Joe Montana kind of performance. It was really good. Dare I say great. But there were moments that, like, I saw the old Quentin Dormady and I was like, I don't want to see that again. And he didn't. Like, he didn't go back to it. And that's what's important.
He kept it under control. And we've said before on this show, like, we think Luis Perez is probably, if not the best quarterback in the league, he's up there. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Even the articles, if you go to the UFL website and they do a weekly quarterback ranking, Luis Perez, I think, is ranked number 2 or number 3, despite his team's record, because everybody knows what a good quarterback he is. And we saw some of those throws from him where he was off target. I mean, we had a couple of interceptions in this game. The Brahmas defense did. So that's going to happen. It's part of the game, but it wasn't continuous as we've seen in the past. It was definitely a different Quentin Dormady, much better handle on the offense, much more confident out there, much more in sync with his teammates. And it was really nice to see. I do think someone made a comment earlier that the true test is coming up this coming week. And we're going to really see how much control and how much in sync he is with that offense. But we're going to enjoy this last week because Quentin Dormady, it was a shut up game for Quentin Dormady, shutting all his all the naysayers and all his critics up. And I'm happy to be shut up.
And he wasn't the only one out there.
Skills. Sorry.
And he wasn't the only one out there. Cody Latimer caught 6 balls for 116 yards. Dradre Kirkland, 5 catches, 48 yards. A little lower than the number I would like to see Kirkland have, but he didn't need to. And a lot of that goes down to Cody Latimer. And then this next guy I'm going to mention, you've been looking for him, Leo. You've been wondering what happened to him.
Yes.
You didn't know. We were not sure. He scored a touchdown, 3 weeks ago, and then walked off the field, and we hadn't seen him since.
Ever since.
The guy might have been cut off the team. But Anthony McFarland Jr. storms back onto the field. 3 catches, 3 for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is efficiency. 3 catches, 2 touchdowns, 118 yards. Put that ball in that guy's hands every chance you get.
Yes.
Welcome back, Mr. McFarland Jr. Oh, my goodness. His very first touch. Yes, we did. Oh, so we saw a little story RC's aware of because we're sitting in the stands. I know, Philip, you weren't able to be with us, but when he walks out and I see the number 41 out there, and I was like, hey, McFarland's back. And my brother and my sister-in-law joined us for the game. You know, Loli's sitting next to me. And then RC brought some guests to the game as well. They're sitting there, and Jerry's a big RC's husband, Jerry. He's a big McFarland fan also. And my brother and my sister-in-law are like, who's that? And I'm like, it's number 41. He's really good. And then literally 5 seconds after I said that, he just takes it to the house on that long pass play. It was a screen pass that he just, destroyed a couple of tacklers on his way to the end zone, and everybody's going crazy. And I look over at my brother and it's like, yeah, I guess he's pretty good. It was amazing. It was awesome. So happy to see him back on the field.
Super Mike Still, Captain Brahmas says, I thought he was going to run right into my shield. He did. He ran right up to you. Micah saw him there. Saw him on TV as I got home after my work meeting. I didn't even get to watch this game live. I had a work meeting right when the game was going on. Leo texts me right after McFarland's first touchdown, and he goes, number 41, he's back, baby. And I'm like, I'm in a work meeting. I have to watch it later. And he let me watch it. And then I texted him as I was moving through the game, and I'm like, I just got to that part. I'm down. First half looked great, and we talked through my watching of the game. But Anthony McFarland, man, we missed that guy. Let me ask you a question, Leo. The resurgence. it's obviously Quentin Dormady had a better day than he has at any other point.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
was a playmaker like Anthony McFarland also a big part of this offense looking vastly different than it has for the last 2 weeks?
I mean, it's part of it for sure. I think there's a lot there. Maybe there's different things that they can do. They can open up, playbook a little bit when they have,
Mhm.
certain formations that they can do with certain people with skill, whatever skill set. So, but no, 100%. The biggest factor was Quentin Dormady, but it was just great to see McFarland Jr. come back and be as successful as he was. I turned and told the people around me, I was like, his last touch before he got injured was a touchdown. And he
Mhm.
comes back weeks later, and his first
With the
touch
touchdown.
after his injury is a touchdown. Let's just keep that trend going.
Well, like I said, the dude caught 3 passes, 2 of them for touchdowns. Why are we throwing to anybody else? Like, throw to that guy all the time. He scores touchdowns 2 out of 3 times. Throw it to him. Get the ball in that guy's hands. Now, he also
He
ran
was
the
just
ball
a
9
missing
attempts.
piece, a missing piece to the puzzle. We have some good pieces, and he was just the missing piece. We missed him. We're glad he's back. Stay healthy.
He also ran the ball 9
Yes.
attempts for 18 yards, a long, though, of 14. He had a
Yeah.
really nice run there for a majority of his yards. John Lovett, a little quieter in this game, 11 attempts, 37 yards, but that's okay. You got what you needed to out of the running game. That wasn't where they were giving us the yards, especially there in the first half. Leo, I've watched a lot of football in my life.
Yep.
A lot of football in my life. And this week, I saw 2 San Antonio teams dominate the first half with a nearly perfect performance in both of
Mhm.
those games, and then come out in the second half and look sloppy. What is that? Is that just a team that goes in and gets dunked on for an entire half that comes out and makes some adjustments and beats you at some of the things you do? Is that what we saw in these games?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, there's a lot of pride. Professional athletes, one, you can't be a professional athlete unless you're really good at what you do. It doesn't
True.
matter what level. If you're a professional athlete, you are good. You're good at what you do. You're a football player. You are a good football player. So these guys are no slouches. You might say, "Oh, Arlington sucks," or whatever team sucks. They can't win a game, or haven't won a game, or only won one game. Nobody on that team sucks. It's just that
Right.
putting it together is always could be a very difficult thing to do.
True.
And some teams have a little bit more talent at certain positions, and that makes it easier for them to put it together. Of all the teams, honestly, of all the teams that we follow that are major team sports, I think football is the biggest team sport there is, where you can have someone who's really good as part of that team, Hall of Fame caliber, but if everyone's not doing their job, and that's why accountability is a big thing when it comes to football, then things can fall apart really quickly. I think that is truer for the sport of football than any other sport. It's not the only sport it applies to, but I think it's more true in football than basketball or soccer or.
I think you're right. I think on the spectrum of like the 4 major sports, because we're in America and soccer is a thing, but it's not a thing that we talk about very often. But of the 4 major sports, I think football is on that, everybody team sport sort of area. And the NBA or basketball is kind of on that almost an individualized sport. Like you can get one really amazing player, maybe 2. If you get 2 top level talents in the NBA, you can play for a championship. Like you can make it to the finals with 2 really good players and a bunch of role players. You can't do that in football. It's not like I can give you the 2 best players in the game and then a bunch of role players and you can expect to make it to the Super Bowl. That's not going to happen. So I think you're right in a lot of ways. What do you got, RC?
Well, I see that there was a change, obviously, from the first half and the second half. And some people may get very upset with me. But when they're doing, like, let's say the Macarena dance, right? And then I see the players also dancing. I almost want to yell, keep your head in the game. Like, don't be focusing on what the fans are doing. But that's just me. And you can hate me if you want to. But I did see a difference between the first half and the second half. Almost that they got a little bit distracted. Maybe their focus wasn't on the game. Maybe they got a little, I don't like the word lazy, but I'd rather say distracted. And so they took their, they didn't put the foot on the pedal and keep going. They just kind of let it off a little bit. And that's what I don't want to see. I want to see 110% focus on the game. And I want them to put that foot all the way down on that gas pedal. I don't care what you do, but keep that pedal down and keep it going. Because I just felt like they let up a little bit. Maybe
I'll have
my opinion.
I'll have more to say about that when we get into the Gunslinger game, because I think it's actually a better version of exactly what you're talking about, and I'd like to address that when we get there. So remind me of that. Real quickly, let's look at what happened based on this game that we won. We have clinched a playoff spot. That's huge. We're going to be playing one more game than the 10 on the schedule, and we're eligible to win the championship. Only half the league is, and we're in that half. We were not last year, and you remember what that felt like. So if nothing else, we have improved over last year. But we've got an opportunity to have something that we have desired for a very long time, and that is a home playoff game in professional football. It has not happened. It can happen this year. All we have to do is beat the two best teams in the league.
Yep.
To go beat
That's it.
The Stallions next week here in San Antonio, and then we have to turn around and go up to St. Louis and beat the Battlehawks. And if we can do that, we can host a playoff game.
Yes.
We roll things
Easy peasy.
easy. Simple. Leo, there's a chance, there's a rumor, I've heard that a guy that you like very much, a man named Chase Garbers, may actually be able to return as soon as next week, going into the game against Birmingham, best team in the league record-wise, kind of tearing through everybody. Do you stick with a Quentin Dormady who looked good for one game, or do you go to Chase Garbers, who has, if you have the choice between them, who played really, really well for 4 solid weeks, but has been out of the game and has not played for a few weeks? Which one is better? Which one's the better choice for you if you have both of those available?
That's tough to say sitting here in this chair behind these screens. If you got to see what Chase looks like in practice. But Dormady had a great game, his best game of the season. His best game of the season. He's been, running this offense sometimes not effectively, which is why we were so hard on him last week.
True.
But he shut us all up, like I said. Do you want to take away that momentum from your team in 2 critical games to put the guy out there who, hands down, Chase Garbers, the first 2 games of the UFL season looked like the best quarterback in the UFL. I don't think anybody looked better than him.
I think you're right.
And unfortunately, he got hurt. And I think things would be way different had he not. It's such a gamble, but there's the old history of you lose your job to injury, which if you're a sports fan, that's not true.
That's not true.
It happens all the time.
Go ask Drew Bledsoe if that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ask Trent Green if that's true.
Yes. So I think you've got to roll them both out in practice and see what you have, see what's there. It's a tough decision. If you press me to choose one, as much as I really like Chase Garbers and as well as he did, I think it's too much of a risk. I think you go with Dormady, you roll with Dormady, or if you're gonna roll with Chase Garbers, then you'd be pretty quick to pull the leash on him. To pull not the leash, but
right.
The hook. Thank you. The hook on him if things aren't going well. But football is such a game of momentum, as we saw, that you're taking a gamble. You're taking a gamble, even though Chase Garbers is a great quarterback. Yes.
Could we take a quick poll on who's listening and watching? Who would you go with? If you were Wade Phillips, who would you go with? I think I agree with Leo. I'm going with Dormandy just because he had one good game, right? It makes me think, is it going to 2 or 3? But we don't know how well also Chase has healed. I mean, he may be healed to play, but his confidence may not be there. And that's also something you need to think about because the psychology is also a big part of football. Like physically, he could be healed, but is he physically or emotionally ready with the confidence?
So my personal thought on this, I've asked both of you. You've given me your thoughts. Here's my thoughts on this. And this is a guy who said Quinton Dormady should not play for the rest of the season just a week ago. What has Quinton Dormady done to lose his job? He just had as nearly perfect of a game as you can have.
Yeah.
How do you go to that guy and say, thanks a lot for having just an amazing game and instilling a lot of confidence in our whole team, in our offense, making everybody feel better about where we are as we go into this final push and head toward the playoffs. Thanks so much. Appreciate you. Ball. I'm going to take the ball out of your hands and put it in the reliever's hands. You would never take a starting pitcher out of the game after he had just struck out the best batter in baseball. Like, you wouldn't do that. And I realize the Arlington Renegades aren't the best team in baseball. I get that. But you wouldn't let them perform at that high a level and walk up to them and go, okay, ball. You ride that momentum for better or worse. And it may be worse. Quinton Dormady may get out there and he may revert back to what he has been earlier in the season, and we may get blown out by Birmingham. Like, it could happen. But what has Quinton Dormady done at this point? It's always, what have you done for me lately? Well, what he's done for you lately is gone out there and led your team in an incredible manner. How do you take the ball away from that guy?
It's hard to.
It's hard, but it's not impossible. I mean, we don't know what's happening at practice. Chase Garbers might have been practicing the last 2 weeks for all we know. I mean, the injury was on his non-throwing wrist, right? Mm-hmm. So he could be out there in non-contact, throwing the ball, slinging the ball, and looking amazing. And Quinton Dormady may have known all this time he is the QB2, not QB1, and doing his job while it's his job. As soon as Chase Garbers comes back, he's QB1, and he could take over. So it could happen. I just don't know which way it's going to go. Now, you definitely don't put a Chase Garbers out there who isn't ready. So that's why I say It depends on what goes on in practice. If it even looks like there's a chance that he's not ready, you roll with Dormady because he deserves a chance to, after this last game, to continue going.
Well, that is the Brahmas game. They win. I think it was a decisive victory. 20-15 on the final score. Doesn't look that way, but I think it was a decisive victory. When we come back in a few minutes, we switch over to the San Antonio Gunslingers. Boy, they played a game, sort of. Let's talk a little bit about that. The San Antonio Gunslingers, a more decisive-looking win, but not decisive at all, in my opinion. We'll talk about that when we get back. Smoke Guns Podcast. We'll be right back after this. Smoking Guns Podcast. Phillip Higginbotham, Leo Yamas, RC Woods. Got her camera off, but she'll be back in just a minute. We talked about the Brahmas. Let's talk about the Gunslingers. The Gunslingers had a game on Saturday night. let's talk a little bit before we get into the game itself about the amazing job that James, Jordan, April did with Military Appreciation Night. Some elements that we've seen before, like the combat veterans on the motorcycles. Very cool moment. Just the whole arena just kind of rumbles with those bikes there. Just a spectacular job. We've seen that before. And then new things like the flags rappelling in. Just an incredible job with the show there, putting on Military Appreciation Night. Leo, what'd you think?
I thought it was awesome. It was, like you said, kudos to everyone involved, the Stubing family, Jordan and James and April and just everyone involved for such a great presentation. It's something to be very proud of and to show the appreciation that we have for our veterans. And I know that the veterans that I know that were there and that were in attendance, they enjoy that very much. The Gunslingers have, historically done a great job with this, and they just outdo themselves. It seems like every year. It's like, how do we top last year to the next year? And this year is going to be hard to top. So it's going to be a big challenge next year. Absolutely amazing with the rappelling down to present the colors with the American flag and the Texas flag. That was something I hadn't seen before and definitely took a lot of coordination and a lot of practice. And it was very, very impressive and lots of special moments in that presentation. So thank you to everyone involved for that.
Jerry, this was one of the first games that he actually went to with the Gunslingers. And he went because it was military night. He's a Air Force veteran, and he never felt prouder to wear that hat that said that he was an Air Force veteran. It really touched him to see the gratitude and the respect and the attention to detail that he received. Even to the tables were decorated. He was surprised about that. And so for the wife of a veteran, it really meant a lot. I don't think people who aren't in that area can feel that, but there was a sense of pride and a sense of gratitude from the moment they had, from the motorcycles to everything. It was really kind of overwhelming and emotional to be there.
The light sticks, the red, white, and blue light sticks, when the lights would go out on touchdowns or in special moments, the crowd, which was a little small, that bugs me. It bothers me that we're not seeing more folks there. There's nothing we can do about that. And the folks that are listening to this, like, we're doing what we can do. The Gunslingers are doing a great job getting the word out there. It hasn't caught yet. It will, as long as we keep plugging away. But even with a smaller crowd, lights go out and those red, white, and blue light sticks out there. Just a really cool look, a really cool feel. Just a great time. I love that they allowed the combat veterans motorcycle group onto the field. We recognize that they don't drive the truck out there anymore to do the cannon. They want to protect that field and be very careful with that very large investment that they made at the beginning of the year. They were willing to throw that out the window and say, no. This is what we do. This is part of what we do. And this is part of the way we honor these guys, combat veterans that have been there on the front lines, fighting for our freedom. We're not taking anything away from these guys. And if that means a little extra damage to our field, we're willing to deal with that. That is what it is. Hey, look at this. John Largent popping in. You guys are killing it. It brings a tear to my eye. Are you going to cover the
John?
the International Football Alliance in 2025? Well, John, if you're able to stick around, we're going to talk about that near the end of the show. Secret. I'll spill the beans. I'll spoil it for you. Yeah, I think we are. I mean, we're cautiously optimistic about this thing, and we want to talk a little bit about that as we get into our final segment here, right around 8:40. If you can hang out with us, John Largent, for those of you that don't know, pulled these three people together. These three people would not know each other without John Largent and Game Day Media, which is not Game Day Media anymore. It is Largent Media Group ? Something like that. But if you have any needs in the media sort of arena, if you need a podcast studio or you've written a book and you need an audiobook produced, you need to contact those guys over at Largent Media, and they can hook you up. They put this podcast together back in the Command Post days. It's funny, John, we were just talking about Command Post days on the show.
We were.
But then again, we may do that every week. I think we bring up the Command Post a lot.
That we do.
But John Largent, a great part of what we did, what we are, and why we're here. We couldn't have done it, couldn't be there without him. So very cool to see him pop up. Back to the Gunslingers and this great job that they do with the show. I don't know. Did you? I want them. We got to figure out how to get them. I've been longing to listen to some of those. He says he found old Command Post podcast recordings. I would like to listen to, I think, all of them again, but I really want to hear. I've been lamenting the fact that they were lost for a long time because I did an interview with Jeff Pearlman about his book about the USFL that I talk about all the time, but I have no evidence that I ever actually did that interview. Please, John, reach out to us, and we would love to see if we can figure out how to get that those episodes back. That would be great. Okay, old perfect
memories.
Old show, old memories aside, the San Antonio Gunslingers, they just do an incredible job, and military appreciation is one of those things that we should always do. They will always do, and it will always be a part of the Gunslinger schedule. And it's something we should do, and we should honor those guys. The next one, Leo, is going to be just as cool, but it's just fun. We're going into the next thing. It is superhero night, and I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited.
Me too. I don't know if we're going to show why on this show later, but
I'm looking for them. We're gonna cover it in the. In a segment. Stay tuned. That's that's a tease. I'm gonna throw a tease out there and say stay tuned. Stay hooked in with us. We're gonna show you some things that if you are a superhero fan, you're gonna want. Yep. Leo giving you a
this is Leo's money just flying out of his wallet. That's what that is.
It is. Tell you what, we had to cut this one a little short. We ran a little long talking about Brahmas. Let me take another break real quickly. When we come back, we'll get to the Gunslingers game on the field. I got some thoughts. I know Leo does too, and I'm sure RC does. That game against Tulsa, boy, you want to talk about two very different looking halves. We're going to talk about it because I don't know that it was all good. No, wait. Let me rephrase. I know it wasn't all good. We'll talk about it here in a second. Smoking Guns Podcast. We'll be right back. Stick with us. Smoking Guns Podcast. Phillip and RC, Leo Yamas, RC Woods. I'm still looking for the stuff that we want to share. There they are. I found them. Gosh, it's going to be cool. So let's talk about the game on the field. Leo, we talked about this a little bit in the Brahmas section, but let's talk about it now. One of the most dominant performances in a half of football I think I have ever seen the Gunslingers over the Tulsa Oilers in that first half.
Absolutely. I mean, at halftime, I was like, this is a statement game. This is a game. We're putting the rest of the IFL on notice that the Gunslingers are exactly who they're worried that they are, because that 3-4 record at the time, at halftime, we're still 3-4, is not indicative of what this team is capable of. And
Right.
that was my feeling going into halftime. I'm sure that was everybody who was witnessing that going into halftime. And Tulsa was, I thought, going into the locker room going, man, we found the Bears awake, and we're the first one in their path. You know, we stumbled across the bear. But no, to their credit, they came out fighting in that second half. Literally, not just figuratively.
Yes.
It actually started in the first half, I should say. But yeah, that first half was just total, absolute domination. The first quarter, I believe it was 7-7, because that was kind of just a weird quarter, but you could already sense what was building. The
momentum.
Gunslingers had stops on defense. Penalties again is really what held them back, I think, in the first half and in the second half.
Yeah,
but they were overcoming those penalties in the first half.
We took some bonehead penalties in this game.
Oh yeah,
I mean bonehead.
Big time.
They didn't have their glasses on. I don't know what they were looking at, but they did not have their glasses on.
I disagree. I think the refs were right on it. I think we were playing mistake-laden football, and mistakes you don't need to make.
Nope.
Mistakes that you don't have any business making. Like, it was not. I'm not going to blame the refs. I think the refs were calling a fairly good game. Not perfect, but a fairly good game. This was not on the refs. This was on undisciplined players that were wearing blue. James Palmer says mental mistakes. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. I am pulling up the drive chart here. Or actually, I was going to pull up the scoring. You're right. At the end of the first, 7-7. By the end of the second, as we go into halftime, we have built a 20-point lead and get the ball first in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
It's 34-14, and we get the ball first.
Yes. We're excited about that.
Ralph mentioned it on the broadcast. It's not a secret. If you know, we've done as much research as we can possibly do in the IFL, and we have found that 20 or 21 is that magic number where if you have a win, if you have a lead by this number, it has never been eclipsed. You have that kind of lead, 100% of the time you win the game. We almost were it was almost like 97% because the San Antonio Gunslingers came out in the second half. And it all started so innocently. It all started. We walk down the field, score a touchdown. Our offense is not the problem. We know that. Our offense is great most of the time. And then I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. That wasn't the Rouge. The Rouge is where things really start to wobble at the Rouge. And that is the opening kickoff of the first half where Kali Rashad can't seem to get a handle on the. And look, I'm going to make people mad because that's what I do, apparently. I make people mad from time to time. And I know we all love number 5. We absolutely all love number 5. I love number 5. I love Kali Rashad. He is Leo's favorite football player of all time. Kali Rashad this week on kick returns was a liability. He won't always be. He'll get it fixed. I have no doubt. I have the utmost confidence. I don't want to see him moved. Yeah. I think Kali Rashad, but if we're just honest, if I just give you an honest opinion, as the broadcaster on the game, as a fan of the Gunslingers, and I've never seen it before in 4 years with Kali Rashad as a gunslinger. I've never seen him be a liability in any part of the game before. But on kick return this week, number 5 was a liability, not just on the Rouge, several plays, several kick returns.
He had a fumble. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. This was, in my opinion, Kali Rashad's roughest game as a gunslinger.
I would agree.
In my opinion, in his career as a gunslinger, this was his roughest game. Now, I do, since you bring this up, Philip, I want to mention something, and it goes a little bit with what RC talked about when we were talking about the Brahmas and players losing focus
Mhm.
because of their engagement with the crowd and the fans, which the fans are a big part of football. The San
True.
Antonio fan base in particular is a big part of the San Antonio professional football teams. The San Antonio Gunslingers fan base is a huge part of the San Antonio Gunslingers organization and what they do on the field because things are so personal. We talk to these guys after the games. We talk to them on social media. We're connected to these players in a number of different ways. And in particular, guys like Kali Rashad that have been around for a while. On that Rouge, Kali Rashad comes down to our end of the field, the party zone, where where we are, where a lot of the fans are, but where in particular myself and RC and Lolis and others that are down there.
Jay.
He comes down to the end zone. He sees us. We're throwing our guns up and we're cheering and we're proud of Kali and happy to see him anytime he's on the field. We love the guy. He shares that love back to us. So he comes over to us and is high-fiving us, saying hello, showing appreciation to his fans, his fan base, before he receives that kick. Then the kick comes, and for the first time, I don't remember ever seeing Kali Rashad handle a kick and not be able to get out of the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, I was devastated. I was devastated right here because I could not help but feel responsible in a way. Kali Rashad, a professional football player, a great football player. And I felt like I was part of the reason that he was not prepared for that kick or had lost focus for just a second. And it made me feel like I contributed to his inability to get out of that end zone because he lost focus on the job at hand just for that second. And that's a huge part of arena football in particular, is the engagement of the fan base with the players, even
Right.
during the game, because we're right there on top of them. And
Indeed.
so I know that that's a part of the game, and I know these players that that's something that they're used to, but I felt so guilty. I felt like I had contributed to that play, and I watched Kali Rashad walk off the field, and I saw Coach Manas mutter something to him as he walked off. I don't know if it was encouragement, if it was like, that was just a rough play or this, or if it was saying something, as the coaches do when after you've done something and you didn't perform to expectation. I don't know what it was, but I'm thinking the worst. And I'm thinking that part of it is my fault as a fan because I'm right there distracting him from the task at hand. And I don't know how to feel about it. I cannot forget that feeling. And that's the first time I felt like this in arena football. And I wonder, and Lolis asked the same question, and she asked me to ask it on the show of TC Stevens. She's like, when we're yelling at him, deuce, 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 and we're literally 3-4 feet away from him as he's mentally trying to get ready to kick these balls. Like maybe in his head, he's thinking, man, I wish these guys would just shut up so I could focus a little bit. It's for the first time I felt like there's a line there that we have to balance. And as fans, we need to know what we should or shouldn't be doing to show our support. I can't help but feel that way after that play with Kali Rashad.
I have a feeling. I want to speak for Kali Rashad, and if I'm wrong, he listens to the show, he watches the show. If I'm wrong, he'll let me know or he'll let us know. I would think, Leo, that Kali Rashad would let you guys know, or TC, either one, would say, you do what you're doing as a fan. You do whatever it is that you feel you need to do as a fan. If I mess up, that is not on you. If I fumble the ball in the end zone and we give up a rouge, or I fumble the ball as I'm going down the field with a kick return and we give up a possession, If I kick the ball and it doesn't go through the uprights like we want it to, that's not on you as a fan. They can't expect fans to, TC Stevens can't expect the whole place to get quiet. So he can concentrate on what he's doing. He's got to be able to do it with whatever distraction is out there. And they know that. They're professional. Like, these guys are just as professional athletes as any of the guys in the NFL. And I promise you, those guys don't get any sort of consideration from the fans. If they don't want to interact with the fans because they need their head in headspace, they can do that. Like, they can shut that out and they can do that. That's their job. That's not your job. So I don't think you or Lolis or any of our fans should do anything any different. I realize how you feel, like that's my fault. I was distracting him, and we see something that we've never seen before. I guarantee you, Kali Rashad, I guarantee, he'll tell me if I'm wrong, but I guarantee you, Kali Rashad did not walk off the field after that ruse where he gets tackled in the end zone and goes, man, I wish those guys from the podcast hadn't distracted me. I guarantee that wasn't a thought on his mind at all.
Oh, I don't think so at all. But as a fan being there, you can't help but feel guilty, like you contributed to that.
I think the fans are positive and negative from our team to the other team. I mean, we influence the game as much as we can because, we want to cheer on our guys. And then also we want to give those little digs to the opponent, because I know, and we can talk about this later, there was a lot of interaction between the fans and those Oilers. There was a couple of mamas that I needed to call their sons out on the disrespect, that the gestures, my eyes can't unsee those things. I go to a game and I don't want to see that. And I saw that at this game and I wasn't very happy. And I'll be calling out a certain number on the Oilers.
We've already had some people talking about him in the comments too. Number 6 for the Oilers. I got to pull up the roster and see who that is.
Oh, I have it right here. It's Kareem Golden, defensive back. He's 6'1", 185 pounds. This is his first year, and boy, does he need some growing up to do. He needs some maturing, because you don't do that to the fans. You don't do that to females like that. That was very disrespectful. It's not called for. We don't need that. At least I would not see or expect any of the Gunslingers to do that to other fans at another city or another team.
I saw what you were talking about, RC. And even though I don't think he was directing it at any females in the audience, I think he was directing it at someone in particular who's actually watching the show right now, because we were down on that end talking a lot of smack, as we do. Yes, there's Jay. Jay's the fan in particular I'm talking about. He was standing right next to me, and we were, as we do, I'm not innocent of it, we like to talk smack and give the players of the other team a hard time when they're down in that end zone, when they're nearby. We like to make it a hostile but fun environment where the other team, me personally, I would love for the players of the other teams, visiting teams, to leave San Antonio or come out of these games and say, man, I hate playing at Freeman Coliseum. I hate playing the Gunslingers and it's down in San Antonio, because those people are crazy, because we're loud and energetic, and we didn't, and we'll dig at them during the game and poke fun, but all in good fun, never getting out of line or inappropriate. And that player did turn around and make an inappropriate gesture because of something that was said to him. I didn't hear what was said to him. But I don't think it was directed at any female. I'm pretty sure I know who it was directed at, because a lot of talking was coming from certain individuals. And Jaden comes out and says, it was me. I don't know if it was Jaden. It might have been. But some players handle it better than others. I do want to give props to someone. I want to give props to Roman Morris. Roman Morris, defensive back for the Tulsa Oilers. He was part of the back and forth. And he even turned around and said, I'm the best defensive back in the IFL. And those of us that were there were talking, we're like, you're what? And he says, I'm the
Hello.
best, for real. I'm the best defensive back in the NFL. I don't know who you're talking to, but go look at the stats. He's like, I'm the best guy. And I didn't go look at the stats. You know, I looked at my brother, and my brother said, that's exactly the attitude he should have. And I said, yeah, you're right. Every guy out there should think they're the best that there is at what they do in the league. That's what they need. So I wouldn't expect anything less from him. After the game, we ran into him in the parking lot, not knowing he wasn't in uniform. He was out on his phone talking to somebody, and he looks over at us as we're walking to the car. It was myself, Lully's, RB, and Jamar. And he looks over at us, recognized Jamar, I'm sure, because he and Jamar exchanged a lot of words. Jay Washington is, by the way, who I'm talking about, Jamar. And he says, hey, man, that was some good smack talk. He goes, that was a lot of fun. He goes, it's all good. He goes, that was fun. And we're like, what? We kind of looked at him quizzically, and he goes, I'm Morris, number 0. And we're like, oh, he came over and talked to us, shook our hands, and said, I said, hey, man, you guys put up a fight in that second half. Kudos to you guys. We thought we had you. And he's like, yeah, it was a good game. And he goes, but you guys are good. He goes, that was some fun smack talk. And I said, hey, I'm part of a podcast that covers the San Antonio Gunslingers. I'm going to give you a shout out on the show because I think that's awesome that you came over to us and made a point to say that to us. And he said, yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you. So, Roman Morris, kudos to you, man. I thought that was great. And, I didn't go look at your stats because it doesn't matter what I think. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Be the best defensive back in the IFL.
Well, and it does a couple of things. Like, I love the idea, Leo, of them leaving San Antonio and going, God, I'm glad to be getting away from this place. I'm glad we don't have to play for you here for another year. I don't want to come back here for the playoffs, that kind of stuff. But I also like the fact that when they are looking for their next place to play, they go, I'd sure like to have those people on my side. I sure like to be a part. Now, that gives Coach Tom and us the opportunity to say, nah, I don't need you. But I love the idea of good players or any players wanting to be here. And if it means, hey, that'd be cool to have a passionate fan base like that on my side.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. It's an extra thing. James Palmer says that's the type of player it's fun to smack talk with. Another guy that I always really enjoyed when I stood down there with you guys, he was on here earlier and he was on our team earlier this year, was Zach Brown. Zach Brown was great at John with fans and good natured, but back and forth. Zach Brown always really good at that. So.
Yeah, for sure. And believe it or not, that contributes to the Gunslingers win. That fan base being loud and obnoxious and being, distracting the other team. That's why I told my brother, I was like, we're in some of the players' heads, and that's awesome. Like, because the fact that they're getting annoyed with us and talking to them, and they're so much that they're talking back, and one guy totally inappropriate gesture, even if it wasn't aimed towards any of the females, it was inappropriate. He wasn't thinking. He shouldn't have done that. But the fact that we're getting in their heads, that makes me, that makes me feel like the fan base is doing their part. And who knows, if we didn't do our part, we may not win that game because they sure made it interesting in that second half. Turnovers, penalties, killed us.
God, they did. Penalties. We took some bad penalties. We took some bad penalties. What do you got, RC?
Well, I was just going to say, and I bring some visuals today, cowbells. So Jerry did attend the Gunslinger game, and he did attend the Brahma game. And one thing he did say was, thank God the Brahmas don't have the cowbells, because he was getting really annoyed with the cowbells. So if that was his first time, and he was like, oh, my God, thank God there's no cowbells at the Brahmas game. If it affected him, it's affecting the players. It's affecting the whole game. So keep those cowbells.
I need Jay Washington got a football and a coin. I'm gonna give me one of them footballs. I'm gonna give me one of them. I already got the right here. You can see
like
my
one of these?
NAL football, but I gotta get a hold of one. Yeah, I gotta get a hold of one of those IFL footballs. Mark Yamaguchi, got to run, but fantastic podcast. Love it. Guns up, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us, Mark. We gotta get 4 quarters together.
We do.
We gotta get 4 quarters together, and we're gonna have to going forward. And let's talk about that here in just a minute, because next week the Gunslingers travel up to San Jose and take on the champions at 7-1.
Tough
and
test.
If they don't bring a full game,
We're in trouble.
Yeah.
it'll be rough. Let's talk about that in a minute. Smoking Guns Podcast. We'll be right back right after this. Smoking Guns Podcast, Phillip and RC, Leo Yamas, RC Woods. Don't forget, we have Bullspit and Bullseye coming up in the last segment of the show. Your favorite and least favorite things about San Antonio professional football this weekend. That's the Bullseye, the best, and the Bullspit, the worst. We want to hear all about what you loved and what you hated in the San Antonio football weekend. So, Leo, I mentioned it as we were going to break, but we really got a big test ahead of us with the San Antonio Gunslingers. They go into Bay Area against the championship Panthers, the current champions.
Yep.
And they are 7-1. And I believe in my team. I am a fan and I believe in them. But if you asked me to lay money on this game right now, I would refuse. And I would refuse because I don't think that there is any way I could place a bet on the Gunslingers, and I would never bet against my team. This is going to be – this might be the toughest game they've seen, the toughest team they've seen all season.
Yeah.
Yes.
Vegas might be up there too, and we know how Vegas turned out. And I don't want to see another Vegas.
No. I will also say, though, that the Gunslingers are not the same team that played Vegas in week 3. Definitely true. A very different team and capable of a lot more than the team was at that particular time. Not just because of the changes made since then, the player changes, but of course that's a part of it. But I think iron sharpens iron, as they like to say, and I think these players have been through a lot so far in these first 8 games of the season. They've run the gamut of highs and lows and been through a lot together, and they're still, as they showed us this week, figuring things out. And we thought they had it figured out in the first half. And hopefully they're that close. It's just a minor thing that they got to remember that they seem to have forgotten or didn't put together in that second half, and they learned a lesson. I wouldn't put money on it because it's not smart to put money on any football team going into another team's home field.
True.
That happens to be 7-1, that has a winning record. That that's a long shot to begin with. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who you are. So I totally get that. But I would think that they're not coming into this game. Green Bay, I'm talking about. They're not coming into this game, or Bay Area, sorry, thinking that this is going to be an easy one. I don't think that's happening either. So let's hope that the Gunslingers team we saw in the first half is what shows up for this game and can put it together for 2 halves. They haven't done that yet, and I think they're capable of doing it. They just got to clean things up, man. Like you said, mental errors, penalties, bonehead penalties, things that they need to just kind of tighten up a little bit. And then also they need to kind of not relax, because I think they came out a little overconfident in that second half. They were feeling themselves, and we can't do that. Not in this league, not in this sport. One thing you say, Phillip, all the time, we've said it on this show before, the great thing about football in the 2 halves is whatever you do to one team in the first half, the other team is capable of turning it right back around, doing the same thing to you in the second half. And that's almost what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we're doing a better job of gelling together, which is it's obvious, but we have to stay focused and we have to keep, like I said, the force to keep winning. I think they get too lackadaisical and they just details, they're not focused, and these minor errors start popping up. And those minor errors, they add up and they add up and they add up. And before you know it, your lead is gone.
I am just as guilty. As we're coming back from halftime, I kind of lean over to Ralph off the air and I say, at what point do you start thinking about putting in Caldwell and saving Sam Castronova? Because this game is sewed up. Like, we're going to be fine. We've got this game won. At what point? San Antonio Gunslinger says, Leo, a great line deserves repeating. Go ahead, Phil. I hope that's the halftime line that you were alluding to, but I do often say, whatever you did to them in the first half, they can do to you in the second half. I don't know where that came from. I don't know who I heard that from. I know it's not original because I'm not that smart, but it's absolutely true. Whatever you did, and good or bad, which means you go in that half and you're down by 20 points. Well, you could score 20 points more than them in the second half. They just did it to you. Why couldn't you do it to them? You're never out of the game at halftime. I hate people that think that way, but I was just as guilty of it. Up in the booth, I was going, hey, at what point do we think about pulling Sam and putting in Caldwell and getting him some reps and, saving Sam because we got this thing sewn up.
So you jinxed us. You jinxed us. You're the cause.
It's not any more my fault than it is Leo's fault.
Well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. I didn't do anything. I just had to cover my eyes a couple times.
One person on this broadcast took responsibility for everything that happened, and it's that guy right there. Everything that happened was Leo's fault. He said it. He was the one that distracted Kali Rashad, that created the ruse that led to the downfall. The entire third quarter.
I'm sorry, Kali.
Look, James Palmer says it wasn't on air, so the comment doesn't count. What was on the air, though, James, was me saying things like, what the Gunslingers want to do with the second half is they just want to dial in, maybe try some new things, maybe figure out who they want to be because they have a lot of this game sewn up. So maybe this is the opportunity they get to just move on. Ralph is going to take it and say he jinxed it. I said we would win when we scored first. That's true. Ralph did point out that teams that scored first, the Tulsa Oilers were something like 4-16 or 4-14 or something like that against teams that scored against them first. And then Jay Washington bringing this up again. Thank you. I was looking for your comment a second ago. I did say it felt like the Warbirds game as well during the game to Leo. Absolutely. I made mention on the broadcast in the middle of the third quarter that there was a game in this very building that felt a lot like this. And this kind of felt similar up until that last half of the fourth quarter. It felt like we were hanging on by, white knuckling. Clinching. Not clinching a playoff spot. We were all clinched, though. I was clinched. That's why this episode is called Clinching, because we clinched a playoff spot in the UFL, and we were all kind of clinched up in that third quarter and part of that fourth quarter.
That third quarter was the worst quarter of Gunslingers football that I can remember.
It was very tense.
I don't think it was worse than Vegas. Vegas was bad. Vegas was a bad game all the way around, and I bet I could find a worse quarter in Vegas if I went back and watched and paid attention.
It wasn't good either way.
But this felt bad. Like, this felt really, really bad.
It felt worse because of what we saw in the first two quarters. It's just from one extreme to the other. Yeah.
Yeah. James Palmer remembering that Short's touchdown drop was the only reason we won that game against West Texas. I will tell you, divorced from that game and that league and all of those things, that game against West Texas, we had no business winning that game. Short should have caught that ball. We should have lost that game. We had that was the luckiest, most ridiculous, crazy thing to ever happen to give my team a win. Where I had headphones on. I called that game with Ralph last year, and I had those headphones on, and I said, that's not fair. That's not right. 90% of the time he catches that ball, we should have lost this game. I was happy we won, but divorced from all of that and a long way away from it now, I can tell you at no point have I ever thought we deserved that win against West Texas. We should have lost that game. Ralph says it haunts me still. Working with me haunts you still?
I
That West
believe
Texas
it.
game that we had to call it together. These guys know your pain. They have to deal
We're
with
talking
me.
to the choir here. We've been with them for 6 years.
But yeah, that West Texas game we had no business winning. I did not feel that way about this Tulsa game. We won this game. We didn't just survive. I mean, we did to a point survive the game, but we came back in the fourth quarter. We put a cap on it. We reestablished control. We didn't just hang on and run out of time, which is what happened in West Texas.
No,
or against West Texas.
The defense put pressure. They applied pressure on the Tulsa Oilers in some key moments to make some big stops and save some plays. And then I got to give kudos to welcome back Nyquan Murray. He had a great game. Definitely the player of the game for me. And then Austin Upshaw had an amazing play at one point in the game. That was a really big play. It was it killed some momentum, I think. That Tulsa made me feel a little bit better about things. It was just it had some scary moments for sure in that third quarter, but I agree. I think the Gunslingers were kind of able to reel it in and get things together again, get things rolling, and when it counted, defense really came in and made some stops, and the offense did what they do. We come to where we expect to score every time. I mean, it's to the point where when we don't score, it's almost shocking. So that's got to definitely have to continue next week, and they're just going to have to clean up some of those things where they're just kind of shooting themselves in the foot. I said it, I think, not last week, but the week before. I said the hardest opponent that the Gunslingers play on a week-by-week basis since that Vegas game is themselves, because there's not a team in the IFL that can stop our offense. There isn't one.
But if there was one,
it might be the Panthers.
It might be the Bay Area Panthers. The Bay Area Panthers are a really, 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 really good football team.
They are.
I wish I could take all the San Antonio fans and take them to that game, because the Gunslingers are really going to need the fans there. Unfortunately, I know I won't be able to make it, but I wish we could.
You driving the bus?
Let's go through Bay Area's schedule real quick. I told you they're 7-1, but let me read off who they beat. Make sure that this is a true 7-1. Look, you don't get to 7-1 no matter who you're playing, and not be a pretty good football team. But they've played Arizona, Jacksonville, Tucson. That's 3 teams that I'm not sure a good team should beat. They played San Diego twice, times. One of those games was a 33-32 win over San Diego.
Ooh.
They lost to the Vegas Nighthawks. We did that.
Yep, in a big way.
They beat the Northern Arizona Wranglers 39-36, and they beat the Arizona Rattlers yet again. So they beat the Rattlers twice. They beat the Sharks. They beat the Sugar Skulls. They beat Strike Force twice, and they were beaten by the Nighthawks. I say all that to say there is nothing on there. Like 7-1 looks big.
Daunting.
It's like a big deal. But as I look down this, I'm like, there's nothing on here where they just absolutely blew out a really good team. And I go, oh, wow. They're not just good. They're good, and they're better than good teams. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat. They're 7-1. They're dangerous. They're a good team.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing on here that makes me go, oh, we can't beat this team. We can beat this team.
And some of those were close games. So that gives us some hope, some good chances there.
They absolutely can beat them if the Gunslingers can clean things up. If they play two solid halves, they are in the same category as Bay Area, if not better. They are capable of winning this game, even on the road, but they just can't do some of the things they've been doing these last
They
couple of
can't
weeks.
let up. They can't let up.
Yep.
Now, here is the thing that I think normal people, and I'm not normal, I'm nowhere near normal. Normal people may overlook. The way the schedule is built, we have Bay Area, and after Bay Area, we have a bye week. Why is that important? Because if I'm Coach Tom Manas or Coach Fuller or any of his coaching staff, you leave it on the field every week. You preach that. You got to leave it all on the field. But you can go into an extra gear this week. You can do more and push yourself further this week than you can any other week of the season because you have 2 weeks before you play another game. You have time to rest and recoup. You're going to get some time off. Push harder in this game. Find an extra gear here because you have the time to recover beyond this on the second, that weekend of the second. Am I wrong, Leo?
No, you're not wrong. You know, it's a perfect opportunity, you know, playing the top team in your conference, and have that in your back pocket where, you know, we can put it out all out there even more so than we would normally do it because I'm going to have a week to recover. We're going to have a week to kind of take this in and recuperate. I definitely think there is something to that. More than that, though, I think is the opportunity where you're 4-4 and you're in the outside looking in on the playoff race, but just barely. You're right there. And what kind of statement are you going to make before going into your bye week where you can kind of recover and prepare for the game after that and have additional time for that? What kind of statement can you make by beating the number 1 team in the conference before you go off and have that week of rest and recuperation and preparation, really? This is a big opportunity for the Gunslingers to make a statement. The statement that they could have made last week by putting together that full game and they just couldn't do it. They can do that this week.
I will go a step further than that, Leo, and I will say that this game is one of the 2 remaining games on the schedule that is the most important games they play on the remaining schedule. Bay Area is 7-1. They are in the playoff picture right now, and this is the one time you play them. And then on June 23rd, June 23rd, we play Northern Arizona in Northern Arizona. They are in the playoff picture, and you've already lost to them once. You are going to have to beat these 2 teams, at least one of them, if not both of them, to claw your way back into the playoff picture and be set up well to have your season last beyond week 18. And so this game and that Northern Arizona game, we play a lot of good teams. We still play Massachusetts twice. We play Frisco. We have to play Arizona and Tucson as well. We play Duke City, which I think we should win, but you know, you never. But Bay Area and Northern Arizona are the 2 most important games on the schedule because you have to get wins against these kind of teams so that you can move on past the regular season. And if you set yourself up with them having the tiebreaker, you make it that much harder. You need that many more wins. So this is one of the most important games they're going to play.
Yeah, I said we're on the outside looking in. Well, those 2 teams are the teams that are in the inside right now. So to overtake one of them and kick them out so that we can get in, that's what we have to do. We got to win. We got to win those games. Yep, we got to beat them.
And the Panthers, this is your only shot at them. So the winner of this game holds the tiebreaker. If they go on a run where they drop 3 or 4 games in a row and we wind up in a tie situation with them, you'd much rather have beat them than have to hope
Sure.
they lose one more game than you. Just have that tiebreaker in pocket. James Palmer says, yes, we have to get the tiebreakers just in case it happens. Well, let's take one more break. When we come back, we've got news about our show, because it's news about professional football in San Antonio, and we've got your bullspit and bullseye. I've already seen a couple of you come in with those, but you can still get those in. And we're going to tell you what our bullspit and bullseye were for the week of professional football in San Antonio. Smoking Guns Podcast. We'll be right back. Stick with us. Smoking Guns Podcast. Phillip and Leo Yamas, RC Woods, hanging out and talking professional football in San Antonio. And we got an announcement last week that meant there may be more professional football in San Antonio.
Wow.
The International Football Association has announced that they will have a team in San Antonio. That team will be led by none other than Hal Mummy. Hal Mummy, if you don't know, is an amazing part of football. The air raid offense, Mike Leach, all of those things that you've heard of, that's Hal Mummy. Hal Mummy got that started. There's a book out there called The Perfect Pass. If you're interested in finding out who Hal Mummy is as he comes to San Antonio professional football, you should go read The Perfect Pass. It talks all about Hal Mummy and Mike Leach, the relationship that they had together, and the way Hal Mummy built his offensive system. It's a great book. And now that Hal Mummy is coming in, I'm going to have to go read it again, and I'm going to go see if I can find the author, and maybe we can have an interview with him and talk about Hal Mummy.
That'd be awesome.
We are excited about more football in San Antonio. It's professional football. It's coming to San Antonio. And what's really neat about this, Leo, and I think something that you've kind of hooked onto, is we talk a lot about where are these teams going to be placed. And that's always important to us. Well, it doesn't stop at the Rio Grande. 4 of the teams that have already been announced will be down in Mexico.
Yes. That's why it's the International Football Alliance, because it is, in fact, between both countries, the United States and Mexico. As a matter of fact, the birthplace of this league is Mexico. You know, it originated as a Mexican based professional football league, and they're kind of rebranding and changing things up and adding to what they've already built by expanding into the United States, and have now identified San Antonio as one of their target markets. Now, this won't be happening at the same time as in spring. I believe this is for summer, is what what their target is for next year, 2025 summer. But go back 2-3 years, Philip, and who would have ever thought, or so go back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, before the Commanders, and we were excited about the Commanders coming up and talking about having the opportunity to have a professional football team in San Antonio again. Who would have ever thought that we were not that far away of potentially having not 1, not 2, but 3 professional football teams call San Antonio home? I mean, that is unbelievable. And you're right. I do have a little bit of a connection with this, or feel connected to this potential league and this potential team in San Antonio, because of the Hispanic community and how big that is, how large that is, and how large it looms in the city of San Antonio, and the opportunity that we'll have to see even more talent, because they're targeting the same type of players that are in the UFL. It's players that didn't go drafted, players coming out of college, and just need a little bit more film, or a little bit more things to put together to get that opportunity to hit the NFL. And I love some of the markets that they have, what's in place. The
Talk a little bit about that.
So right now they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 teams besides San Antonio. Besides San Antonio, another one in Texas, the Dallas Pioneros, the Spanish word for pioneers. They have the Las Vegas Kings, the Alabama Beavers, the Tampa Bay Tornadoes. That's the only one I'm kind of like, are there tornadoes in Tampa Bay? I'm not sure. But then in Mexico, the Mexican teams that will be continuing with this league, the Chihuahua Rebellion, the Cancun Sharks, and the Guadalajara Tequileros, which I think is pretty freaking cool when you have a team called the Tequileros, tequila. So I translating that in the Spanish that I know, tequileros is someone who makes tequila. So
Great.
I think that's pretty cool. And they have said, as far as the San Antonio franchise, they are going to have some announcements next month as far as where they'll be playing, the rest of the coaching staff, and a team name. So the team name, they said, is going to be decided by the fans because they want to be a very fan-centric league, which also kind of has me excited about this opportunity. They are
San Antonio
saying
Smoking Guns
right off the bat, the San Antonio Smoking Guns, that they are going to be very engaging with the fans, and the fans are going to be a big part of what they do. And I think that's awesome. Right. So they're going to have a contest for the fans to actually name the teams. Are we
got any ideas?
I do have an idea, but it's very inappropriate. We can combine the Brahmas and the Gunslingers to the Gunslingers. No?
The Braslingers?
Brahmas and the... No?
I wouldn't be voting for that one.
No.
Okay, RC, you're pretty. Creativity isn't everybody's bag. No, you're okay. You're pretty.
All right.
What do you got, Leo?
I keep thinking.
Leo, you got some ideas. What do you got?
I've got two that I can't decide on, but between the both. But I'm gonna throw them both out there for the Smoking Guns posse to kind of digest a little bit, and then maybe they can help us out. Or help me out, because these are my suggestions, but I hope they to gain some traction with them here. So, number one, the Caballeros, which translates to.
I think this is my favorite. The Caballeros is great.
Yeah, it translates to the gentleman, right? And you could do so many cool things with the word gentleman. There's a lot of things that you could do with the, San Antonio Gentlemen. Doesn't sound so cool in English, but you can say San Antonio Caballeros and then go with the gentleman theme, because, we know that there's some undertones of a gentleman can be, kind of tough. Charros is a good one too. I see the suggestion here from the Mission Highlighters. Iguanas, going back with it, a little nod to the hockey team. And my second suggestion is the espadas, so the swords. That's the Spanish word for swords, the San Antonio espadas, and I think that would be pretty cool. And then you could do we can go back to our origins of swords up and be espadas arriba. So you have swords up in Spanish, but those are the two ones that come to mind.
I like Caballeros a lot. I really do like that. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of just the gentlemanly, almost the 1940s kind of Mexican gentleman sort of style to it. The nice dinner jacket. Like, I really like that idea a lot. RC, you said you had a better one. What's your better one? Is it better than Gunslingers?
Oh my gosh, that was a joke. Find the humor in it. I was thinking of Los Soldados, the soldiers. Is that too much? Maybe.
It's okay. I mean, I'm gonna stick with Caballeros. How about Tejanos? The San Antonio Tejanos?
Tejanos, maybe.
And here you go, Leo. I'll let you. This is your.
Loli suggests Los Sucios de San Antonio. No. Just kidding. No, we don't want that one. No, definitely not Los Sucios. that for those of you that don't speak Spanish,
reference.
Yeah, it's a fiesta de la sucia. It's a kind of they're dirty. The dirties is the literal translation. So borrachos, yeah, that's the drunkards. Yeah, I don't know about that one. That's not a great look. I definitely think Caballeros would be better.
I do really like Caballeros or Vaqueros. there's look.
The Vaqueros is Cowboys though, and that's like the
Yeah.
team up I-35. And no, we don't want to be this
No,
Spanish version of the
no.
Cowboys. No,
It's a big no.
no. And
Absolutely.
so there is a history. There is a historical team in San Antonio that was very good and very successful in the league that they were in, called the Toros, the San Antonio Toros, which is the Bulls. But that's too much like the Brahmas.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't want one team to come in and kind of push and the other one out or step on any toes. So I would right away kind of just throw that out of there. We don't want to reference something that's already here. So no Vaqueros. Sorry, Philip.
I disagree. Vaqueros. Let's go with it. So we're excited about look. We're cautiously excited about what the IFA is going to be. Fuel Network is already working with the IFA on a league level to have access like we are not provided in the current UFL. Maybe that changes one day, but right now the UFL has kind of been resistant to working with Fuel Network and with the Smoking Guns podcast. Hey, that's neither good nor bad. We realize we are just 3 fans, and we understand that they're looking for something bigger, and that's fine. The IFA is a little different. They have already reached out and made some connections, not only with the Fuel Network, but with us. And so we're cautiously optimistic. We realize that off-season football is one of those things that can be great. We've seen it be great. It can also be a dumpster fire, and we've seen that too. And so we're hoping for good things. Hal Mummy is not a guy that gets involved with things that are a scam. If he knows about it, he was involved with the XFL last year. He was the offensive coordinator over in Arlington for Bob Stoops. You know, when they won the championship, as opposed to now when they don't have Hal Mummy and they're not very good. So Hal Mummy is a guy that you should, if you don't know about him, The Perfect Pass is a great book. I've listened to it I've been through it once, and I'll go through it again now that I know Hal is coming here. So we're excited about the IFA, and you should get excited about football in San Antonio because that's what this show is all about. Now let's move on to our favorite segment of the night, our favorite moment of the night, Bullspit and Bullseye. I will give the first shot to Leo. I think RC had it last week.
Yep.
Leo, you get the first shot. Bullspit and Bullseye for the week.
All right. My bullseye is definitely the return of Anthony McFarland Jr. It was just, he lit up the Alamo Dome when he scored that touchdown to start things off in that game. That was just that started it all. That was the impetus of what would be the night and the feeling of the night in that crowd. It was amazing. And then he did it twice. It was great to see him back. He's a fun player to watch. I know a lot of people that love to watch he runs hard. He plays really, really hard. So it was great to see him back. That has got to be my bullseye for the week. My bull spit, there was a lot of things, we talked about the second half's letdowns. We talked about the way I felt and how disappointed I was at feeling that I was partially responsible for the Rouge and Kali Rashad, his worst game as a gunslinger, in our opinion, a lot, but nothing compares to me, at least for the bull spit of Austin Collier's injury. Yeah. Did not look good. When I see it happening and being on the end of the field while he was down and yelling in pain when they moved his knee, and you just knew it was the knee right off the bat. And knees are never, it's never a good thing when you have a knee injury in football. And then to get, not confirmation, but we kind of they kind of know what's going on with that. And I feel like it's probably going to be a while before we see Austin Collier on a football field again, maybe never. And that is definitely my bull spit of the week. I hate to see that. And Austin Collier is such a great guy and a great player. That's a big loss for the Gunslingers and for the San Antonio fan base.
Yeah, real bummer. A big contributor to the defense. Even if you don't hear his name called very often, he is always in a good spot to force things the right direction. RC, bullspit, bullseye, what do you got?
Okay, so for my bullseye, it's definitely going to be the military appreciation night at the Gunslingers. They went above and beyond to show the respect, the appreciation to all of the different members of the service. And so kudos to you. It was very moving. I just can't say enough. It was a very special night for my husband and I, and I'm sure for all of the service persons that were there. Every detail was thought of, and I really appreciate that. My Bulls fit. Well, I think I've already mentioned it, but it's the Oilers' attitude. Number 6 needs to get their mouth washed, and they need to learn what they learned in kindergarten. You treat others how you want to be treated. And I know I've heard.
Maybe that's how he wants to be treated. I don't know.
I hope not. I hope not. But I heard from other people this term, and I don't love this term, thugs. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to defend myself when I said those referees needed to put their glasses on, because there was an issue with DJ Myers when he was called for a penalty, when I clearly saw the Oiler holding onto his mask. And then, of course, DJ kind of pushed him, and he got called for the penalty. And that's where those glasses were needed, because they were missing things. They were missing some of the cheap shots. And that's what I was talking about, the glasses, because the referees missed that. So that's my Bulls fit. I just didn't like the attitude of the Oilers. Thug was a term that people use. I don't like that term, but I did see some of the effects of that term, and I could see why some people called them that. So I'm done with that. Wash your mouth out. I don't want to see those gestures again on the field, and at least don't do it in front of me so I can see it. I don't want to see that.
It's always the second guy in retaliation that will get the penalty flag. It's always that guy. DJ's getting his face mask held, or he's getting shoved or whatever. And man, they will let those go from time to time. But if you respond and retaliate, you're getting flagged. It's just going to happen. James Palmer checking in says his bullseye was the first half of both games. I agree with you. They were absolutely awesome. Bull spit was the second half of both games. I agree with you. They were absolutely awful.
Mhm.
Good call. Jay Washington says his bullseye was the Stars in the Western Conference Finals. I love it. Yeah, they are in the Western Conference Finals. I know you guys won't be near as excited to find out that my Mavericks are also playing in the Western Conference Finals, which means the two teams from Dallas are together in the same building in the Western Conference Finals for the first time in history. That's kind of fun. The Brahmas are in the XFL championship game, the entire Gunslingers atmosphere on Saturday, and the Gunslingers defense stepping up. He also says his Bulls bit the Gunslingers defensive penalties and special teams woes. And then he goes on a mini rant here. Can we get more chance outside of defense? I understand the chance on a couple of plays, but we need multiple plays straight for the crowd to stay involved in the game. Okay. If that's what Jay wants, Jay should get it, because that's who Jay is. He should get what he wants. My bull spit, I'm going to start with for the week. Wait, let me check and see if there are others that have come in as we've been talking. Mission highlighter, Stars and Mavs. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Hey, 2 Dallas teams that would know how to win in the playoffs. You're not
At
wrong.
least there's 2 of them.
You're not wrong. There is a possibility, outside possibility, but it's still there, that the Texas Rangers, Dallas Stars, and Dallas Mavericks could all be champions in their league, leaving one team in the Dallas area that is not at the same time.
And what team would that be?
Anyway.
No, I'll say that 2 teams, because don't forget about the Fighters.
The Fighters and the Renegades. I mean, they're not going to be champions. No. I guess they're holding the championship right now, so there might be some overlap there. That might actually work out. So my bull spit is going to have to go to the effort that we saw from the San Antonio Gunslingers in the second half of the game, specifically the third quarter. Mm-hmm. It was bad. It was really, really, really bad. It was rough all the way around, and it was a terrible performance, and you really can't pin it on any one person, and I wouldn't do that anyway. It was just, look, That wasn't Tulsa stepping up. Tulsa took advantage of what we gave them, but we gave them a lot. And it was rough. And then my bullseye. A few weeks ago, at a San Antonio Gunslingers game, I was buying some of my merchandise that I love to buy. And I bought a keychain. I don't carry keychains.
Huh.
I don't put a keychain on my keys normally. I didn't have anything to do with this keychain, but I bought it because it's really solid. It looks great. And I was like, man, I want that keychain. So I bought it. And for the first time in about 5 years, I have purchased a pickup. And I had something to do with it. Immediately, I was able to put my Gunslingers keychain on my brand new pickup. Not brand new. It's not new. It's new to me.
New to you.
And so now, everywhere I go, I got the Gunslingers in my pocket. And they are with me. And so the neatest thing for me this weekend was to pull my keys out of my pocket every time I went to get in my new truck and go, hey, Gunslingers. I got the Gunslingers.
That's pretty cool.
That's
I'm
awesome.
really
Congrats.
happy about it. I'm really proud of my new truck, and I love the fact that the Gunslingers are right there on the keys as part of it. And that you may think that's dumb, but that's my bullseye for the week. Jessica Palmer says the bullseye was military appreciation and the win. The bull spit all the unsportsmanlike conduct. I watched the Brahmas number 41 drop the ball, and he went off sides and made himself do 10 push-ups. He made himself do work for his mistake. I do like that kind of attitude. When you mess up, you don't need the coaches to punish you. You punish yourself. I do kind of like that. Well, we are up against time. What's left is to plaster your truck to look like Jordan's and Coach
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That'd be a good idea.
I mean, hey,
Wrap
if they
it
want
up.
to wrap my truck, man, I'll let them. Maybe. Absolutely, though.
Did we talk about this?
Well, we got a few weeks before that happens. I didn't want
All right.
to oversaturate. We've got some stuff we want to get out there soon,
I see you. I'm still pointing.
but we don't have anything specific that we want to share right this moment because you'll forget about it between now and then, right?
True. Maybe.
That superhero night is the San Antonio Gunslingers against the Duke City Gladiators, and that is on June 8th. And you want to be there. Be there. I already shut it down, Jordan. I bet I could get it. Okay, we're going to run long. I'll get it. If you've stuck with us this far, you deserve to see these.
Yes.
You can blame
You
me
ready?
for going overtime. Blame me.
We're into overtime here. Here's the first one. You ready?
I am.
No.
Leo, watch. I'm going to pull $45 out of your, or $50 out of your pocket right here, just like this. Watch.
Magically. Poof.
Magic.
Boom. $45.
Oh.
$50.
Woo!
Done.
Oh my goodness. It's so beautiful.
Sick. I love it.
Philip, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's not $50 out of my pocket. This one is probably $100 out of my pocket because I have to have a backup in case I do something stupid and mess up one.
What?
I need to have a backup of this particular jersey.
So there's
love it.
that one. But if you thought we were done, if you
We're
thought
not.
Jordan only put together one good one, I'm about to give more. I'm not about to give more of your money, but you're about to lose more of your money, Leo.
Oh no.
You ready? Boom!
Oh,
Boom. Love it. That's my shirt
Jordan.
right there.
Jordan, do we have any beeping sounds for the podcast? Because you're going to have to beep out me in a little bit. Oh, you're killing me, man. You're killing me. Beautiful. Absolutely.
You
love
can
it.
love
awesome.
Wolverine, you can love Deadpool, but you all know you love them both. And now you can have gunslinger versions of both Deadpool and Wolverine, inspired by those two characters in the MCU. They are not Jordan says, "Sorry, Leo."
Yeah, I'm not sorry because I'm gonna love having them.
James Palmer, not a Marvel fan, but that is fire. They are good looking things, good looking shirts. Mission Highlighter loves what he sees. And Mo Ferrante, she commented with just silence.
No, if you look in Facebook, it's an image of a guy doing this.
They're so cool.
Okay.
Yes.
So there you go. If you stuck with us, now you know what you're looking at here in a few weeks. Jordan Stubing doing a great job as always. He says, thank y'all. Thank you, sir. Thank you for all the cool stuff you put out and put together. We really love it. Even if we're poorer because of it. We really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. With all that being said,
I can wash your car. You need anybody need a car wash?
When it comes to professional football, whether they're playing up in San Jose, or down in Jacksonville, over in Tulsa, up in Frisco, down in Birmingham. Where else have I not gone?
Mexico?
Down in Guadalajara, Mexico.
Down in Guadalajara, Mexico. Wherever they play Whoa. That's not offensive at all.
I've got a good grito. Okay, who has a good grito? I need to call Jerry. Jerry has the best grito for not being Mexican.
Wherever they play professional football, I think it's becoming clear that the 210 has got something to say.
Bang, bang.